What's up, everybody? Welcome to Off the X Podcast. I'm Forrest Carvajal here with my best good friends, as always. Mr. Barrett Moon, how are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
What about Mr. Tyler Wells? How are you?
Couldn't be better.
And then we've got Matt over here. He doesn't have a mic tonight. He's running the camera, which is typical for him, but weird for us for the podcast. I'm not used to a camera running just yet. But the reason he doesn't have a mic is because we only have 4 mics and we have a special guest tonight.
That's right.
Mr. Austin Booth, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
This is your second time to appear on the podcast, so we did not make you mad enough the last time, so we'll try this time.
Y'all didn't make me mad. I think I made y'all mad.
No. Well, no, I don't think you made us mad. Not on the podcast. We were mad going into the podcast. Right. But we're talking surveys again.
Hard to believe it's been 2 years.
It's not been 2 years, has it?
Yes, it has.
It has.
Yep.
No, it's
Holy
been
mackerel.
1 year, hasn't it?
No, the last time we do regs
It's
on
been
a
2 years.
biannual basis.
Good grief. That is. Okay, I feel really bad. It's been 2 years since you've been on the podcast. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that.
We'll try and do better.
Before we get to the survey, though, how's duck season this year?
My duck season was just about like most everybody else's. Tough. It was tough. I hunted over 20 days in 21. About 12, maybe 13 and 23. Sorry, 22. And then this season, I think I hunted 5 times.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. And it was rough. It was dry. Not a lot of places spoke around on public land till January. Most people know that. And yeah, it was tough. And I made it count.
You made it count for those 5 days?
I made it count. I got my new dog out there. Her first season of hunt, she did well. I got my kids out there. Actually, one hunt had my entire family, wife and all 3 kids, and my dog.
Really?
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was a lot. I was not the best handler. I was not the best dad. I was not the best husband, but everybody had a good time.
I'm glad you added husband and dad after handler, because I was about to say handler of which aspect?
Dog. Yeah, dog.
Now, what's your dog's name?
Coop.
Coop? Boy or girl?
It's girl.
It's a girl. I would guess off of the name Coop if that was.
It's a long story. Yeah.
Do you want to tell it? We've
Sure.
got time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my wife, little known fact, is a 4th generation female pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Her great grandmother, her grandmother, her mom, and her were all pilots. And so we name our dogs after airplanes. And the woman that started it all was Kristen's great grandmother, and her favorite airplane was an Air Coupe. So we named this dog
Awesome.
Coupe.
Does this dog like to jump?
Yeah, she likes to jump.
All right.
It's a little bit of a problem, but yeah. Yeah.
It's a little bit of an issue right now.
Yeah.
yeah. From our conversation earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the first bird she picked up? Because I know you know what it was.
Mallard Drake.
Nice.
Very nice. In
Mallard
some
Drake.
timber?
And some flutter timber. That's
In
right.
some flooded. I mean, it can't be more Arkansas than that. Is it a black dog too?
Yep.
I mean, how do you get
My
more
man.
Arkansas than that?
Now, this is actually pretty funny. You know, it's her first season, my first season with her, obviously. And she picks up a few greenheads on the first hunt. On the second hunt, some greenheads. We go out there for the third hunt, and, you know, she's got a big engine, lots of drive. She's a know-it-all. And she's like, I got this thing figured out. And I'm not going to say who it was. It wasn't me, but somebody shot a spoonbill. And
I would have claimed it.
Is there something wrong with this?
right. And she made a long retrieve, and she swam right up to that spoonbill, put it in her mouth, and spit it right back out.
Oh,
Said, I don't know what that is, but I don't want it.
She's a purist.
She's a purist. Yeah.
Mine didn't know what a greenhead was till almost the last week of season. That was one of the last ones that he picked up, I think, was a greenhead.
Coop would hate hunting with us.
Yeah. She'd get bored.
Did you kill any memorable birds?
So my 10-year-old killed her first duck last year.
Nice.
And we hunted together a few times this year, and she killed 2 greenheads this year. So those are memorable birds, no bands, nothing fancy.
That's cool. Anytime your kid kills a duck.
Absolutely.
Is she your oldest?
She is, yeah.
So well, let's go into that real quick then. What was that like the first time you got to see her shoot a duck? Because I remember watching my son shoot his first one, and that was just like next level outdoor experience.
Yeah, I'll remember it till the day I die. I mean, she was laughing, I was crying. It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, and we were hunting some really good flooded woods that morning, and it was dark, and I knew the ducks were going to come in. I mean, they were coming in pretty early, and I said, now look, the first big group that comes in that we're going to shoot at, I just want you to watch them. And you're probably going to hate me for it, but you'll thank me later. It's like, I just want you to watch them so you know what to expect when you pull your gun up. And she was like, yes, sir. So the first group comes in, and they do perfect. And, it was a big group. There were only 3 of us, not including her, that were shooting. And we drop a couple birds. And before the ducks hit the water, she goes, that was awesome. And then see the light bulb click on with her. The next group that comes in, she shot a greenhead, and it was unforgettable.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Tyler's daughters have shot their first deer this year.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them
Yeah,
did.
both of them did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Barrett's oldest will probably be ready at maybe next year or the year after to go.
We'll see.
We'll see. His oldest is a firecracker. Well, all your kids are, but your oldest is he's busy. He moves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He went hunting with me and Reed last year, was it? And I'm pretty sure that between both of those kids, the little blind that we had up, that blind was vibrating because of all the energy that was in that blind.
I took my 5-year-old hunting this year for his first deer hunt on his 5th birthday. No, he didn't pull the trigger. But no, I'm convinced after that experience, the loudest thing in the woods is a 5-year-old boy.
I agree.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Now, Tyler, do your kids want to go back? That's the big question.
Yeah, they would both go back.
Good. They did it right, Dad.
Yeah, we Briar, we got there at 6:30, and she'd shot one by 7:15. So we sit there and drank some hot cocoa, and she's like, all right, let's head out. And then Piper, when she shot hers 5 minutes before that, she was like, I'm ready to get down and go walk around. I said, let's just give it a couple more minutes. It's only 8 o'clock. And then 8:10, 8:15, one popped out. So we've been watching one all morning, though. That was the thing. It wasn't like we hadn't seen anything. It was just, we need action right now.
Right now.
So
that's how it goes.
But yeah, they're both ready to go get in the duck woods and try that next. So we'll see.
So, let's move into this season. As far as it started out very, very low water.
Sure.
So, from a game and fish standpoint, what is kind of running through y'all's mind when we've got low water, we're going to have tons of people out there? What's going through y'all's heads at those moments?
Yeah. So we're duck hunters too.
Absolutely.
You'll have to remember that. And we're instantly thinking about what public expectations are going to be, combined with what the conditions are going to be on the landscape. And we saw pretty early on, we had a really dry summer. It was drier than last summer. And, we were looking at some of our moist soil units, and we were getting on them water. We were getting water on them, but we were seeing hey, this is the ground is as dry can be, and it's got a long ways to go. So we knew we were shaping up for a dry year. What we were hoping and expecting on was a major rain event first, second week of December, like we've seen the past couple of years. That didn't happen to the extent that we wanted it to. So yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is anytime we think about drought years, obviously as a hunter, the first place that we go in our mind is what are hunting conditions going to be like? Well, if you look back at some of our forest health analysis that we did at Hurricane Lake Wildlife Management Area in 2018, 42% of the red oaks at Hurricane were either dead or irreversibly dying. That's a staggering number. All right. What precipitated the big die off there was a drought summer. Mm-hmm. And so most people are inclined to think, and I totally get it. They're like, hey, y'all need to drop boards early to catch all this rain. It's actually the exact opposite from a timber health perspective. The trees are already under pressure from being in a drought year all summer long. So we really start sweating about all right, we know we have to meet these increased expectations for water and access, but on November 15th, when we traditionally drop boards, we know the trees aren't dormant. And so any kind of early inundation with water, yes, it might be the right thing to do from an access perspective, but from a forest health perspective, got to be really careful about inundating trees when they're already under stress from the drought.
Right.
So we went into the season, balancing not only expectations, but balancing those expectations with with our obligation to do right by the natural resource.
That's a tough. I mean, like what we talked about in the last episode is having to balance so many different things, and and y'all are balancing the tree health and then giving opportunity to the hunters. So that's tough. Which I didn't think about this the last episode, but Bell Slough.
Yeah.
How come it wasn't flooded from Lake Conway or more than what it was?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at the pipe that we have that essentially outflows from Lake Conway into Bell Slough, most people see that pipe and they assume that that's how Lake Conway floods. It's not. If you just look at the volume that pipe can handle and assume that it runs for a 24-hour period, we would have to have nearly 100 days of continuous flooding through that pipe just to get water onto Bell Slough. The way that Bell Slough actually floods is when the Arkansas River backs up into Glaze Creek that way. That didn't happen this year because the Arkansas River just didn't cooperate.
Right.
So even all that discharge from Lake Conway beginning in September was not enough to flood Bell Slough in and of itself.
Because I was so curious about that, because I was losing a little bit of hunting that I get to do on Lake Conway, and I was like, well, surely Bell Slough will be flooded, but I didn't know all that.
Mother Nature gets a vote.
I know. I don't know how to change that.
She's fickle.
She's very fickle. So, what is when we got into January and we finally got all the conditions of we've got water, we've got cold, we've got ducks.
Sure.
What are y'all's thought process there? Because now you've got habitat. So what are y'all thinking there? Because I've never thought about it from y'all's perspective. Y'all have to think about what all's going on as well as not just let the hunters hunt.
Yeah. Well, we really have to rewind into December.
That's right. Too.
And this isn't even including the people side of this, right? If we focus on the duck aspect of it, we talked to a lot of private landowners throughout the season. Hey, what's your season like? All right. It's pretty slow for private land guys too, even if they had water. And we started hearing reports about people killing ducks. That's good. People getting happier. That's good. And a lot of assumptions were being made about conditions up north. All right. Well, we just need this big freeze, this big cold push. And we were talking to our counterparts up north of us in the flyway. They're not seeing any ducks. And so we started asking some questions like, where are the ducks? And then as the reports continue to flood in through private landowners, some of the people that are beginning to kill them on public land, a lot of people killing adults, all right, mature ducks, not juveniles. And kind of the bread and butter of duck hunting, not just in Arkansas, but up and down the flyway, is harvesting lots of juveniles. All right. And so we didn't see a whole lot of ducks in the aerial surveys, even into December and January. And so we were really thinking to ourselves, like, all right, where is this going? Where is this going? And then we had that big cold front that came through, and we were hoping that a lot of that would kind of push new ducks down. And from the banding data, some of the GPS transmitters that we were able to see, it really didn't. Now, I'm not saying people didn't have better hunts. They 100% did, but that was, it had less to do with the fact that there were new birds here, and had more to do with the fact that they were just more concentrated.
Right.
So that's what really took us into January. Of course, we knew once we had a bunch more water throughout the state that people would end on a good note. And that's, for the most part, what happened.
Okay. I was curious about that because right there, and I was going to ask about the aerial surveys. I can't remember when y'all fly those or how many times you fly those, but I was curious when the thaw happened, because there's a lot of people, we need the thaw to happen. We're going to kill more ducks. Once it thaws, it's going to get great. And my thought was like, what if we don't have the numbers of ducks that we think we do? They're just all, like you said, they're concentrated. And then when it thawed, that's exactly what happened. What little ducks we had plenty of room to go wherever they wanted. Yeah. And it was really hard to kill a duck.
Yeah. And if y'all will remember, that's what happened last year too. I mean, we had, not like record breaking numbers, but we had decent numbers. But then by the time we had decent numbers, we had so much water, they were just all spread out all over the place.
Yeah. Mother Nature again.
That's right. She gets a vote. Yeah.
Y'all have anything else on season? Any questions about it?
Did you get to hunt any place really cool that you haven't hunted before?
No.
Okay.
No, you did. You've hunted it before, or no, you didn't get to hunt anywhere cool.
Not that I haven't hunted before.
Got it.
All right.
But he doesn't want to say. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a true duck hunter right there. It's like a fisherman. Do you catch any fish? Yeah. Where'd you catch them?
In the mountains.
Arkansas.
Yeah, exactly. I do have some fishing questions. I don't know if they'll be on the podcast or not, but
All
I
right.
do have some fishing questions. Let's hop into I want to know about the aerial surveys. Just
Yeah.
how many and how often?
4.
4.
Yeah, we fly an early, a mid, a late, and a post.
Okay, so you've already done all 4 of those.
Yes.
You've already done
Yeah.
the post. How far after season is the post?
I think it's a week or 2. Yeah, all of that's kind of weather dependent too. What we try to do as a flyway is every state fly it at the same time.
Really?
Right. So if I'm just making things up, but if Missouri's down 200, then in theory, Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana should be able to show a net and corresponding amount, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a big deal because we're trying to time things. One, what is our people capacity to do it? What are other states doing? What's the flyway doing? Yeah.
I like that y'all coordinate with the
Weather.
other states.
Yeah.
How often in February do you see a big increase? Because I have my thoughts.
Very rarely.
That's what I was thinking.
Very rarely.
Very rarely.
I mean, most of the time, and I've been duck up my whole life, so I get it. As soon as the season closes, folks are like, the ducks are here. The ducks have arrived. Like,
Exactly.
that has a lot more to do with pressure.
Yeah.
Which aerial survey, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. Which one do you tend to see the biggest influx?
The mid in December.
Mid in December?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before the winter solstice?
That's my recollection, at least. Yeah.
That's fine. Well, you don't have to put it in stone. That's okay.
Right. Yeah.
But typically before the winter solstice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
And I'm sure this is going to come up, but I'm really trying to talk about this every opportunity that I get. If the feds dictate a framework change away from 60 and 6, I want everybody to understand the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission does not set that.
Yeah,
Does
it's
not
all
set the
it
number
all
of
goes
days?
off of
Yeah.
the feds.
Do y'all have any recommendation, or do you have any?
Nope.
Nope.
It is 100% data driven and what they call adaptive harvest management. It's a framework. It's a matrix that has 2 inputs to it. It's the Maypond count and it's the breeding population survey. You follow those 2 inputs across in the matrix, and where they match up, that's what the flyway's getting.
Yeah.
All right.
But they don't dictate when those 30 days are?
No.
Or do they?
No.
They give you a time frame of...
Right. They give us this framework. Like right now, we have 60 and 6. It can't go past the end of January. We can only stop and restart the season twice. All right. So it'll be the same thing if it goes 45. Same thing if it goes to 30. The date for the 24-25 season, that framework's been set.
Right.
All right. So whatever comes out in July will be for the 25-26 season.
So, all right, and again, I'm asking because you're here, and I'm going to ask.
Sure.
Do you feel, or do you have any? And I know, again, you guys are not giving any feedback into that or whatever. But do you ever get any feelers that there's a chance that could happen? I mean, is there anything that would make you think that there's a change coming?
I mean, we try really hard just to not get our hopes and fears all wrapped up in a wad based off of anecdotal evidence. We can certainly see what our own aerial surveys saw this year. Whether that will translate into a season change for the 25-26 season, frankly, my personal opinion, this is not game and fish. I would be surprised.
Okay.
But I would say that there's more people paying attention to it now than ever.
Got it.
All right,
That's
because
good.
we've I mean, one, the anecdotal evidence is relevant, and number 2, the aerial surveys keep going the same direction, and it's not good either.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you have to think up in Canada and in the breeding grounds, like they've had a dry, mild winter,
Oh my
which
gosh.
translate to a dry spring, which is going to give more area for predators to wreak havoc on nesting. So
Have
I mean,
y'all-
it can't help.
Have y'all ever been up there?
Nope.
No.
No. Hopefully this fall, maybe.
Y'all
That's
should
the
make
goal.
the trip. I've been to Saskatchewan the past 3 years, and I mean, you understand like what the pothole region looks like just flying in, and guys, it's bone dry, and we can get everything right in Arkansas. We can get everything right, and if the duck factory is not working, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And it's a continental resource, and I mean, Mother Nature gets a vote that's true every single day. But it's all about what conditions up there are like, not what they're like down here.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask what your spidey senses told you about the upcoming season, but that pretty well answered it already. So, or not the upcoming, but
Sure. Sure.
25, 26.
You know, the May pond count and the BPOP that'll take place in May. We'll probably have an idea about where we're heading. But then, you know, the FOBA Council meets in July. So that's when people can expect an announcement from us on what the 25-26 season looks like.
Okay.
I'm curious, and I'm excited to hear all the numbers. I mean, I'm not excited to say, "Yay, we're going to a 30-day season." That's not what I'm saying at all. But
are you sure?
No,
Well, out of 60, you only hunted what, 18?
I hunted 19 out of 60. Honestly, if it was going to be a 30-day season, I would fight really hard to get more because there's only 30. I mean, I've got all this time afterwards that I can make up for the work that I've missed. So it's kind of like, I think I would probably hunt more on a 30-day season than on a 60-day season because it's kind of like, well, if I miss this weekend, I've still got extra days. But on 30, it's like, I've really got to make those days count. What, I was having this discussion with somebody. So you can only open and close the season twice.
Correct.
So how does that work with the WMAs that are only open Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday? Because in my mind, it's closed those 3 days for those WMAs.
Well, the season's not closed.
Right.
It's just those wildlife management areas that are closed.
Y'all don't have to do anything special for that kind of regulation.
Correct.
Okay. I was just curious about that. What are the odds of like how much work would have to go into getting the WMAs and the NWRs to align with regulations?
We're moving in the right direction. Y'all probably saw in some of the reg surveys, like for example, the feds are going to adopt the aftermarket exhaust rules that we implemented on some of our GTRs this year. Feds are going to adopt that for the 24-25 season and beyond. So we're really good partners with those guys. Where things get, to the point of infeasible for the refuges are the resident, non-resident restrictions.
Right. Right. That's where I was going with that.
Right.
But I was also under the assumption like you just can't. It's federal. You can't regulate that.
Exactly.
You can't say no.
No
Since
to
it's federal.
non-residents.
Right.
Correct.
Which makes it difficult in my mind for the state because if you say you can't go here, then you know where everybody's going. So the how you control pressure
Right.
makes it really hard.
I'm sure that's one of the questions we're going to talk about tonight.
I don't know the first one off the survey, and we don't have it pulled up. Do you know it right off the top of your head, or do you just want to go after pick one and rock on?
Well, since we're on non-residents, do you want to talk about that one?
Sure.
That's fine.
All right. Which one?
Let's do the choosing their days.
Yeah. So, and this surprises some people it doesn't. The number one complaint that I get about non-residents and their 30-day blackout periods, or they're only, given certain dates where they can hunt on wildlife management areas. The number one complaint that me and the commissioners both get about that is not from non-residents. It's from
Of course.
It's from residents. And the reason for that is twofold. We took a fixed amount of presence from our non-residents, and we basically focused it to certain time periods. Is it better from the residents' perspective when the non-residents aren't here? Yes, but during those times they are here, it's a lot. All right. The other piece of that is from residents that hunt the refuges. And so we've just taken that pressure off of some of our own wildlife management areas, and we've just moved it to a to a different place. And so I mean, we're not committed to this. You know, y'all have done a great job highlighting the fact, like what we did with duck season dates last year. We put it out for public input, and then after the fact, people didn't like it. We went the other way with it. So this is something that we've been hearing a lot about since we went to the blackout periods, and we want to put it out for public input again, just to see where people are at with it.
So it was out for public opinion about the, what you call it, blackout periods. You got 3 specific 10-day sections versus
I think that
something
was
else.
like,
It was probably before your time, right?
Yeah, I think that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Okay. I mean, I would not have known about it. I was talking to somebody about this before we started the podcast. I was one of those people that was like, if I don't pay attention to the game and fish, they won't pay attention to me. Right. So like I had no idea y'all did surveys. I had no idea about any of that stuff. And then we started the podcast. I was like, well, I probably better pay attention so I can speak kind of intelligently about it.
Good on you.
And well, maybe. And since then, I feel like the awareness, at least on my part, has gone way up, and I've enjoyed most of it. I see where the public and the agency butt heads, but that's just going to happen.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, you're never going to appease everybody.
No, especially with this non-resident thing. What's the percentage non-resident, resident Arkansas state stamps?
It's about 50 to 55% non-residents.
So almost, it's borderline more, potentially is more.
Yeah, depending on the year.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
Do y'all have are y'all able to tell how much of that is public versus private?
We have a pretty good idea on how much of that is non-residents hunting public. We have roughly about 10,000 WMA permits that we sell total every year for residents and non-residents, and about 6,000 of them are non-residents.
Only 10,000 for the WMAs?
Yes.
Really?
Now, that's not including somebody that exclusively hunts the refuges. All right.
Okay.
Like you don't have to have your game and fish WMA permit to hunt a refuge.
Right.
So unless there's, thousands of people that only hunt the refuges, that ballpark number of 6,000 non-residents and 10,000 WMA permits.
How many Arkansas state stamps are sold?
It's about, for residents?
Total Arkansas state duck stamps.
It's, again, depending on the year, about 100 to 105,000.
So that's a tiny percent that's hunting public.
Yeah, you're right.
Or on WMAs anyhow.
Right.
I didn't realize it was that small. I would have swore it was a lot different than that.
Yeah, I would have too.
Yeah, and look, that's just what the numbers say. We're not saying by any means we don't care about public land duck hunters, anything like that at all. We spend a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of effort focused on public land duck hunting, and it is for a good reason, and I'll say that till I'm here.
No, that did not cross my mind. What crossed my mind is that 10,000 voices speaks really dadgum loud, especially on social media.
They're
I don't hear
yelling.
near as much from the other 90,000.
Yeah, fact.
I did not know those numbers. I knew that I'd already knew the 100-something thousand, but I wanted to ask it on here. But yeah, that's interesting to me. What's the other non-resident thing? I can't remember what it was.
Restricting non-resident access to green shoe reservoirs under construction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that was the funny.
Unless they own land.
Unless they own land adjacent to.
That was worded funny.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody know why? No.
No.
I don't even speak correctly, so I don't know why.
All right, so the primary motivation for that is Dave Donaldson. All right, okay. And the reason for that, have you ever hunted there?
Never laid eyes on it.
Tyler, are you familiar with Brookings?
I am. Yeah.
All right. So you have a bunch of homes that are awesome homes, and it's not like a shack. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with duck hunting out of a shack. If you do, I love you dearly. All right. These are big homes that are essentially, for all intents and purposes, on the wildlife management area. They have, these porches, and they walk out to their boat dock and they drop their boat down in the water, and they're in the Black River, and they are, for all intents and purposes, on the wildlife management area. And some of these homes have been in the ownership of families for generations. Mm-hmm. They're very expensive. They pay property taxes. They have for years. And so we felt like for some of these that are owned by non-residents, or non-residents have an equity share in it, it would be too much to say, well, thank you for supporting conservation for X amount of years and for continuing to pay property taxes. We'll see you when we're done with this project.
Right.
All right. So what we want to be able to do is to say, for a temporary period of time while these GTRs are under construction, while the water levels are one, unpredictable, and two, lower than we expect them to be after construction, that we will grant exceptions to that policy for people that own a dwelling immediately adjacent to the wildlife management area.
So how do you enforce that?
Well, we have a few ideas. Number one would be you have to basically show and let me just say, this is going to be something we have to work through in between now and the 24-25 season. Mm-hmm. In practice, it's really the 25-26 season, because we don't expect to have any GTRs under construction for this upcoming duck season. So we have a while to work through it. We're thinking about a system where you essentially grant permits, like a hard card permit. When you mail into Little Rock, show your name on the deed, show your interest in the LLC, that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah.
So you got to have the hard card on you.
Yeah. And, if you've been to Brookings and you just look at Onyx for some of the other properties that are immediately adjacent to the wildlife management area, it's not that many.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about dozens, not hundreds.
Yeah. So, I was just thinking like, okay, well, what's the stopping out of stater to come in and be like, well, I'm part of that camp back there.
Right.
Yeah.
They would have to do it before duck season, but yeah, we have a long ways to go before that's actually relevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's next for us?
I don't know.
The first question was the proposed date changes.
Sure.
Again.
Yeah.
I think we pretty well answered that one. I mean, we could go into
I was just
it.
telling you. Austin, do you have a preferred?
No.
So if you were
he's not going to answer that one question.
Hey, I'm going to try.
No, but that's a fair point. I mean, number one, the director doesn't vote on any regs. All right.
But if you could.
We may not vote, but surely you got an opinion.
What did your wife vote on?
Right. My wife would probably prefer for the season to end somewhere around January 15th, like it originally did before Trent Lott got involved, but that's another story for another day. No, so the season changes, we're really asking 2.5 questions, right? Whether you would rather see the season end on the last Sunday and those days added back into December, or whether you would see it like to go to the 31st. I say 2.5. Kind of that last question was, what do people want to do with the youth and the veterans? Yeah.
What kind of participation do y'all see in the youth and veteran hunts?
Pretty strong on both accounts.
Good.
Yeah. Now, right now we're seeing a lot of the kind of like conservation ethic change around both private clubs and to a lesser extent around the public land hunter. We're seeing some private clubs impose their own duck restrictions, impose their own like days per season restrictions. And I can think of a couple of clubs that I'm not going to mention that won't let kids hunt on youth day. So,
well, I would kind of like to know who those clubs are.
I would too.
I mean, I'm not going to say I would shame them, but I would shame them.
Yeah. But overall participation's really high.
Okay, cool.
I'm curious what brought the goose season change? What statistics brought that into?
Yeah, so a few things. Number one, objectively, the Arctic goose population, of which white fronts or specks are a part, it's in a nosedive, guys.
Really?
I mean, it is really bad.
Did the bird flu start that?
No.
Okay.
They were just already in a downward spiral.
Yep. And I mean, we can look at the fact, and it has a lot to do with habitat, has a lot to do with the prairie pothole breeding conditions, or the nesting conditions rather. But like Louisiana and East Texas used to be covered up with specks, and now they're in Arkansas. Now that has a lot to do again with the habitat around there. But the numbers from a goose factory perspective continue to go down. So that's kind of the first part of it. The second part of it was we started hearing a lot from duck hunters the past 2 years about, hey, we're trying to be more pressure minded. Are we really doing the right thing by letting people just, get after the geese during duck season and even before in the October season when we're starting to get some Halloween ducks? And so we started hearing more and more support for aligning the spec season directly with duck season. Yes, directly with duck season. And so we said, hey, we'll see what the public says.
If the population, like I said, is in a nosedive, and what we know or what we hear all the time is days kill birds, not limits, then you have to take the days away, which would be those 14 days.
Yep.
I'm for that one. I'm heavily for that one personally. I know there are some that they don't want to see that go away, and they've, I've heard a few that would have asked for it to be moved on the backside of February. I personally don't like hearing guns go off in February unless it's a youth. So that's just me. But I'm for that one. No 14 days or no early goose hunt.
Awesome.
Did you goose hunt any this year?
I did not. No.
It would have taken one of your 5 days.
You don't want to goose hunt with us.
Especially the forest. He loves them.
I'm the eternal optimist when I go duck hunting, but when I go goose hunting, I'm negative Nancy. I mean, it's just like a drastic change.
Dude, we had him on the back of a trailer. He's I don't know how he ended up on the trailer.
We had the Pattern Pro guys with us, and not everybody could fit in the side by side.
I told Brody, isn't that his name? I told Brady, I was like, get in the trailer. Well, Brody got in and he was like, oh, Forrest is in the trailer. And so we were rolling down to this goose field, and I turned around and looked back, and it looked like a turd was sitting on the, because he was wearing a brown jacket, and it was just like you couldn't tell it was a human. Like he was just like just a mud stump just sitting in that trailer.
Yeah, it was. That's how the hunt started.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we shot 2.
Yeah, we're lucky we shot that. So
Were they specs?
They were specs.
Right.
They were specs.
Well, that's good.
All right, so let's go to the proposed change to establish a 25 shell limit.
Yeah.
So I'm all for shell limits. I mean, but at the same time, the ones that are at 15, bringing them up to 25, I feel like those places are already such a madhouse with 15. Like 25 just seems like it's going to go. You wouldn't think that, but.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. All right. My preference was to see it go to 10.
okay.
I mean,
I was going to say 15 all across the board, and I'd be real happy.
I was Tyler. I was with the 15, and we had our red bands. That was how we regulated ourselves this year. Was we only took 15 everywhere we went.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I never went through my 15 shells, but I never shoot anyhow.
Yeah.
But I'm with him. I wanted to see it at 15 instead of 25. But I'll take what I can get.
Sure. We're always trying to balance opportunity and the natural resource. The obvious natural resource concern with shell limits is pressure. The opportunity consideration around shell limits is, giving people enough consistency between wildlife management areas where they're not, unintentionally violating regs. Another piece of it is we want to make sure that people aren't going to be sky busting. All right. Another piece of it is we want to make sure that people have enough shells where they feel like they can have a good hunt and also chase down cripples if they need to.
Right.
And so you put all of those things kind of in the tumbler. We had green shoe reservoirs that didn't have any shell limits. And then we had some that were 15. And so we thought, hey, to make things easier, wildlife management area to wildlife management area, why don't we just make it a consistent 25 shells? If we're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to listen to public opinion. If we need to make it across the board, go down to 15, then we'll do that. But we felt like this is a good first step.
I would agree.
When do we put our voice in on dropping it to 15 across the board?
Right now.
15 across the board.
I'm with 15. If it's 15 and we stick with 6 birds, then you've got 2 shells per bird and 3 cleanup shells.
Look, I'm with you. I'm with you. All
I
right.
mean, even I can do that most of the time.
And did y'all state that in the survey?
Not if all those words, but I think I wrote something down in there. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I typed it down in there.
Good.
Barrett, did you?
I'm doing it right now.
He's taking his survey while you're here.
We thought he was taking it the last time, but apparently not.
I want to wait for him to
Let me
be.
go to the next one here.
I didn't even read the one about the Egyptian geese. So
Are there that many Egyptian geese in northwest Arkansas?
In the River Valley and in northwest Arkansas, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we're starting to see them.
Okay. I need to go shoot one. I've never shot one.
Yeah, they're kind of ugly.
It's okay. I shoot plenty of ugly ducks. A hen McGanser's pretty ugly too.
Yeah, that's. I'm looking through them real quick while we're going. I ran through the. Let's see. Just clarifying
they're
some
clarify
language.
ones.
Yeah.
What I had this, which this is off topic, but when the Metro was at 3 ducks or 4 ducks, 3 could be mallards.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was a greater hunter satisfaction when there was that limit versus what it is now?
Yes.
Okay. You answered my question. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Any chance of that being on another survey in a couple of years?
Yes, I think so. You know, we're always thinking about pressure. But I mean, for a couple weeks in January, I mean, there were a ton of folks killing limits in Biomeda.
Right.
And I mean, during those couple weeks of the season, you know, you're like, man, I'm glad the limit's where it's at right now. So we're going to keep an eye on pressure. We're launching another survey, all right, not related to regs, but our first ever hunter effort survey. Like, we generally know what people's bag limits, what their harvest is, but what we don't know is gauging their satisfaction against their effort. And so, so that's probably going to drop early March. Yeah.
I've had some days when I put a lot of effort in and got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very, very interested into that. How you're going to assess the information you get for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm honestly more excited about that one than this one. I didn't know about that one. I'm excited about that one. I might fill that one out twice.
All right. Well, the next one.
IP address?
Yeah. My wife.
Whoa, your wife's computer.
And both of my boys and my dog.
Let's
Let's go to the mud motor.
let's
question.
talk surface drives.
All right.
Yeah. So, how, with all the money that's brought into the state and all the sales tax and everything that's brought in, I mean, you look at all the boat manufacturers and everybody that's partnering up with all these mud motor companies and they make packages and sell boats. If y'all are restricting them on WMAs, I mean, what's that going to do to the economies?
Sure.
I mean,
Well, let me be abundantly clear about this. We do not manage natural resources for economic impact.
true.
All right. That's nowhere in Amendment 35. Is it part of our overall consideration? Yes. But we will never look something dead in the eye and say this is bad for the natural resource and we're going to choose to leave it in place because of economic impact. If we did that, we'd still have party hunting. All right. And I'm not talking about party hunting like specs. I'm hunting like party hunting like we saw in the early 1900s. We would be commercializing whitetail deer. All right. So with that out of the way, let me just say that with surface drive motors, the first thing that people should see from the question in the survey is that there's no reg proposal for this year. All right. It is purely an information gathering question. That's all it is.
It's exactly what I thought it was. Like when I read it, I was like, "There's no way they're actually going to do this. They just want an idea of what's happening." Now, I mean, that's how my brain worked or whatever. Maybe you would, I don't know, but in my head, I was like, "There's no way they're actually going to outlaw it." But they just want to know what we think. And
Exactly. Now, the manufacturers, we have nothing against manufacturers, right? They're they're not the ones causing a problem. All right. So we don't have anything against them. Healthy industries are a big part of duck hunting. We want to see that thrive. They lower barriers for access to people where it's easier for them to get involved in the sport. Hey, that's a good thing. However, we get a ton of complaints about surface drives. A ton.
Well,
and so to your question that you brought up on the Instagram Live, it's like, well, if they do this, then what's next? They're going to outlaw 12 gauges. We don't get anybody complaining about 12 gauges. We don't get anybody complaining about 20 gauges. We get a ton of people complaining about surface drives.
well,
Just noise? Is that main complaint?
No. That's a great question. So the issue with the surface drive is twofold. Number one, it is the noise. And y'all remember the last rig cycle, we had the surface drive and outboard motor aftermarket exhaust rig, right? And I mean, just to show that we understand the financial investment that people make in this incredible sport, we said that it wasn't going to be implemented until this past duck season. So we gave people a full year to anticipate the change. So one is noise, which we do hear a lot about, and the other is access. I mean, there is no disputing that surface drives are incredibly effective tools and that they're letting people access areas of our wildlife management areas that were previously only left for the ducks or by people that have some hustle and want to walk out there. And so there's a noise component, hunter disturbance, and then there's a duck disturbance and access piece of it too. And as we're seeing drier conditions on the natural resources side of things, we have to be mindful about the pressure that we're putting on the ducks with these very effective surface drives.
So me and my wife and some friends were watching Oppenheimer. Yes, I'm comparing the nuclear bomb to mud motors. Anyhow, but there was a quote in there after they had successfully tested the bomb and whatever, and Oppenheimer was having all these internal conflicts about it. But the general that was over Los Alamos, he said this line, and when he said it, I was like, that applies to so many things duck hunting. But the first one that I thought of was mud motors. And the line is, we've given them an ace. It's up to them to play the hand. Mm-hmm. So it's up to all of us that have the mud motors to use it the right way. And I think that there are a lot of people that do. And I think there's a ton of people that don't. And those are the ones that everybody's complaining about.
Yeah. I mean, Brent Birch and Kason Short on the Standard Sportsman, they had a podcast. I think it dropped last week, and they were framing it: is it the Indian or the arrow? And I think the consensus amongst the group, and I wouldn't disagree with it. Kind of to your point, is it's definitely the Indian. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to overregulate anything more than we have to.
Honest people are always going to be honest, and outlaws are always going to be outlaws.
Yeah. And so all we wanted to do with that question, Tyler, was to help quantify a lot of anecdotal input that we get.
Well, my looking at it is, yeah, everybody complains about surface drive, but then they're just going to find something else to complain about once that's gone. Like that's just, they're going to complain. And two, your out-of-state guys, when they come in, maybe the only thing they have at home. If you live in Louisiana, most of those guys, they make a living out of their boat. Sure. So,
we don't have the luxury of taking the position that people are going to complain, so let's just ignore it. All right.
Is it the squeakiest bearing gets the most grease?
We always try to make the experience better and to control pressure to the extent that we can.
It's a tough one. It's a
fun one. You ain't gonna make everybody happy with any of them, but
no.
I mean, I own 2 of them,
right?
So I'm sitting there going,
because the value of them is going to go way down.
Yeah, the value's fixing to tank, and the market is going to crash on them, and then everybody's going to be sitting there with their thumb up their butts.
Not the whole market; it's just our general area.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll have to travel 3 states over to sell them to make any money off of them.
My other thought, which was said on the last episode, was like, if they get outlawed on the WMA, the NWR is going to get a whole lot louder.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then you have, and which I don't hunt there a lot because I never get drawn, but Raft Creek, I mean, you try to hunt that place with an outboard 90% of the time. I mean,
sure.
But how many
You're
more
not.
birds will use it? If not, but the other
I don't
thing
know.
is,
Nobody ever see them.
the other thing is how many people, once they say, okay, like I brought up Millwood the last time, you know, you've got a half mile flat of just 1 foot or less water. How many people are going to be like, there's 2,000 birds sitting over there. I can't get to them with my mud motor, but I'm going to try with this motor. And they're going to get halfway out there and they're going to get stuck. And they're just going to be causing all this noise and all this commotion. They're only going to do it once. But that one day is going to wreck a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned Raft Creek. You mentioned Millwood. Again, that's not a proposal, right?
Right.
We are purely gathering information to see what people think. And someone's going to take this out of context and say, no, there actually is a proposal, but there's not. If we were to do this, and I'm not saying that we will, but if we were to do it, I would be hard pressed to think that we wouldn't try to differentiate water bodies from water bodies.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, Raft Creek makes a lot more sense than, like, you know, Dave Donaldson by me to hurricane one of those.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Unless it's a low water year, then they all make sense. Because I'm gonna tell you, I ain't broke any lower units with a mud motor,
I personally haven't broken a lower unit on anything, so
or had a bent prop shaft.
Oh, you don't have one.
I don't have one. No. So Lord, it's really hard to break stuff you don't have.
So I want to bring up something. And this is kind of left field, but has there been any thought, conversation, anything along the lines of any type of regulation going towards guiding outfits? Just with the number of outfitters we're seeing and the horror stories we're getting, has there been any thought, or has there been any complaint to you guys or anybody else that some of this is getting out of hand?
An unbelievable amount of
Okay.
yeah.
That it's proposed to up the
fee
Yes.
and the having to have $100,000 liability or
yes.
whatever it was. I can't remember the exact number. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, you know, that's another great example, Barrett, of how we don't want to regulate things that can otherwise be self-policing. All right. And so we recognize that some reforms, whether they come from the Arkansas Game and Fish or organically from the industry, is 100% needed. We would like to just implement the change with the increase of the guide license and let what I'm recognizing as a movement within the guide industry itself kind of mature a little bit. And then we'll take it up again next reg cycle to see where we stand. But we get a ton of input about it. Yep.
I mean, I like that one. I was like, yeah, up the fee on that. That way the guys that are good and established and that, you know, are going to do things the right way and going to have a positive impact, like those guys are going to stay.
Invested in the resource.
Yeah, the
They're in it for
fly-by-night
long.
guys
Yep.
are the ones that, you know, we're going to go burn these fields as much as we can and then cause a ruckus, and then, well, we'll just leave and go somewhere else and do it again.
If we get to do it a second year, great.
Yeah, if not, we made hay while the sun was shining.
That's right. That's exactly right. That was a good question. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is on there?
That was all I seen on that. I'm moving through to the next section now. It's general.
What
is where
about
I'm at.
there was something in there about parked vehicles. I don't think it was a proposal.
Oh, it was
in
changing
one
of the wording or something.
Yeah. Hang on. I'll find it.
Camping to involve like parking overnight or whatever.
Yeah. So right now we have a reg that says you're only allowed to camp overnight on wildlife management areas at designated campsites. All right. I think we can all agree that sometimes our access points turned into camping not at a campsite. And we've seen it a couple of times where it becomes a safety concern. You have so many vehicles on the road, slid off the side of the road, blocking the road, that if there's some kind of boating accident, or, you know, someone goes into cardiac arrest from drinking 3 Monsters and having a lip full of Zen all night, there's no
What the crap, man?
there's no way to get EMS back there. And so it's about really prioritizing our access and not for camping. Now, are we going to move that problem from the wildlife management area to where we're putting boats in to somewhere else? Yeah, and we recognize that. And we're going to work with our law enforcement officers to see how that goes. If we make it worse, then we'll make a change. But right now, the reason that's listed as a clarification is the reg that we have right now. One argument is it already includes that. We just want to make it more clear.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah. And then that was my next question. I was like, all right, where does that back them up to?
Yeah. And so we, if you look at like some of the refuges, I mean, they have gates that don't open until 4. Mm-hmm. No, it ain't the Daytona 500 once they open the gate either, right? Things are pretty orderly. People generally show up shortly before the gate opens. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
You feel pretty confident about that one already, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I wanna go and see what happens at the Black River where those guys are camped out for 2 weeks before on the side of the road, and I'm like,
or how about Ed Gordon?
Yeah, Ed Gordon's another one.
Ed Gordon's the last weekend is like a free fall.
No, they're there the first week too. I was thinking like, man, when I was a kid, I would totally do that because it would be just like we're playing bago and we're cooking out and we're just having. That's in my mind. That's what they're doing. I've never been to either one of them, but I'm like, hey, it sounds like a great time.
I'm sure it gets a little bit more wild than that.
I'm sure it does. Yeah. I'm a little bit pure heart.
Right. Yeah.
Me and my Dr. Peppers.
Right.
And monsters.
Yeah.
And monsters.
Yeah. Well, I had to be on point tonight.
I want to rewind to the exhaust because I've just got a question on what did it look like from an enforcement standpoint this past season with that. Really, I don't even know how you guys were even taking. I mean, if somebody pulls up to a boat ramp and I'm looking at that motor, I have no idea what I'm even looking at. So did you guys have to do not extensive, but a decent amount of training so these guys knew what they were looking for to kind of delineate motor to motor?
Yes and no. Some of our game wardens that were focused on some of the GTRs, most of those guys kind of already know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times it's pretty self-evident.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can hear it.
You can hear it, and then you can also see it. I mean, that's an outboard motor with holes drilled in the midsection.
Yeah.
All right. That doesn't take an outboard motor mechanic to figure that out. I saw a surface drive powered boat running down the interstate, and they had gotten
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Not on a trailer or anything.
It was on a trailer. Thank you for that important clarification. And they had some kind of paint job on their aftermarket exhaust system that had flames coming off it. It was also chrome. I'm like, that is not factory. So now, I would say, one of the things that I was encouraged by was that shortly after we passed that reg 2 years ago, there were people reaching out to us saying, hey, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
There were people saying, hey, I want to put a muffler on that actually makes it more quiet than stock. That's a good thing. There were people saying, hey, if I take Loctite and thread these holes in my midsection and run plugs in them, is that going to be cool? So overall we saw people wanting to do the right thing.
Okay.
That's good.
That was going to be one of my questions because it was stock exhaust, but then you have a couple of manufacturers that are like doing the turbo kits that are coming out, and the decimals are lower than what a stock exhaust is. So how does that play? Because if the guys that are enforcing are out there and they're like, hey, I know that's not stock,
sure,
even though the decibels are quieter.
Yeah.
I mean, how?
Yeah. So every single game warden, the number one question they're going to ask themselves is, what was the criminal intent here? Right. And
to go fast.
And in a situation like that, I mean, I'm not a game warden, but I think you would be hard pressed to find a game warden that would write a ticket for somebody that tried to make it quieter.
Is that how they were checking? Was decibel?
No.
Okay.
No, we intentionally did not do that.
Okay.
Because I mean, unless you have a game warden standing, in the middle of the boat lane with a decibel meter watching boats drive by, like that's impossible to enforce.
Yeah, I was just curious at how. Yeah, because I mean, my assumption would be if I pulled up with a turboed out motor, he's going to go, well, it's definitely not stock. I don't care
Right.
if it's louder or quieter or whatever. Like the deal is it's not a stock exhaust. Like
Sure.
so.
Yeah.
That's just how I would assume that would go.
Yeah. Yeah. I do know we issued citations for it this year. I don't know whether any of them were turbocharged exhaust.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty cool if you haven't seen one.
Yeah.
I have not seen one.
If we get one, we'll call you and you can come right in it.
Down the interstate.
Down the interstate. So, and then I'm looking at another one on here, and it's allow the use of tree hooks on commissioned owned WMAs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I missed that one.
I don't mind tree hooks. They're a whole lot easier than having to throw a strap around a tree or whatever. But, a lot of people, they throw a fit about, tree hooks. And then I've been with guys that's like, they get out there and they're digging through their bag and like, oh, tree hook. And, throw it as far as they can. And like, I forgot that when we had it the other day. I don't want to get caught with it out here. So, where do you stand? How do you have an opinion about that one?
Well, so one of the reasons that you see a lot of regs that say clarify,
Mm-hmm.
two reasons for that. The first reason is we wanted to make the survey more digestible for people. I think last year we had like last reg cycle, I think we had like 180 or 190 different pages. We got it down below 90 this year. So the average completion time is less than 15 minutes, which is a big improvement, and really proud of our research division for putting that together. So that's the first reason. The second reason why you see these clarifying questions is because we went through this internal 2-year process where we just kind of sorted through regs that don't make sense anymore, saying, is this really necessary?
Right.
And so we came to the tree hook thing, and we had lots of people in the agency that made assumptions why it was there because it had been there for a really long time. And we talked to our foresters, and we're like, well, is the sawmill going to reject this? Nope. Is it a forest health concern? Nope. So why do we have it? I don't know. So we said, all right, let's pull back.
It's a whole lot easier to screw a peg into a tree than it is to throw a strap around
Whole
it.
lot easier.
I've dropped more stuff putting straps on than
Tyler's fell off the back of a leg.
Oh, I did. Broke the strap on my Sika bag and
Now-
killed myself.
From an enforcement perspective, the difficulty is going to be distinguishing what is a tree hook to hang my duck purse on versus a tree hook used to climb up in a tree to deer hunt out of, right? Because those are two very different kinds of tree hooks, and one will break a saw at a sawmill.
Well, I will say the one that you used to climb up on also for many years has been used as one to hang my bag on. So I don't see the difference in it as far as unless it's just the material it's made out of, because it is probably a
Size.
different.
And diameter.
size.
Which when I'm hanging my bag on there, I'm like, do I want something that's going to break on me if it's too heavy and bend, or do I want one that's going to hold up?
Well, now that you're going to be able to take 25 shells in,
I'm only carrying 15, but I also
only
carry a
carrying
thermos
15.
of coffee and snacks. It's mainly the snacks. I have to keep Barrett fed out there.
and all of his safety supplies.
right.
Yeah, I do carry a full first aid kit.
Good.
So
Yeah, but Tyler's the one that if we're missing something, the first person we ask is Tyler every time.
He's a good friend.
That's right. Well, he's just
try to
good
keep him
hunt with,
alive.
Yeah.
too. Y'all have anything else?
I have covered everything I wanted to cover.
Matt, do you think of anything over there?
No, Matt's in.
So personally, I have a really big heart for getting kids in the outdoors for the first time or introducing people.
Sure.
Maybe if they're an adult, but let them come out and shoot their first deer. How are you seeing us in the state doing with introducing new people? Where do you see our sport going for the future of Arkansas?
Sure. That's a great question. Overall, we're trending down. All right. And there's a bunch of reasons for that are frankly beyond our control at the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission and beyond y'all's control too. It's going to take everybody doing it. The number one reason for it is that if you just look at this, all of this is my opinion. There are experts in kind of the social science hunter participation world that have different opinions.
Right.
So this is just mine. If you look at the size of the baby boomer generation, they are still a larger generation than all the generations after them. right? Even after decades of heart attacks and cancer and car wrecks and all kinds of mortality that generation's seen, they're still bigger than we are. All right. So for us to match hunter for hunter with the baby boomers, we're going to have a participation rate that's much, much higher than what they had. All right. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is like we got shrinking middle class. We got fewer married households. And that just makes kind of that generational teaching of outdoorsmanship much, much harder. The third thing, and when I go to town halls and meetings and I say this is when people start throwing stuff at me. All right.
Get ready.
He's picking something up right now. Yeah. I think one of the biggest contributing factors to the decline in hunters and anglers is not a kid on the couch, the video game. Because when that kid's on the couch, he might be there with him and his buddy. I think it's year-round sports.
Yeah.
All right. When I was a kid, we weren't doing this year-round basketball thing. We weren't. Year-round baseball was just starting to pick up. Year-round soccer was just starting to pick up. When that happens, it takes the whole dang family out of it.
It's true.
All right. And it's taking
Never thought of that.
Yeah.
a lot of money out of people's pockets too.
Yeah.
And so I'm just admiring this problem of like all the challenges that we're up against to ensure we're matching hunter for hunter and angler for angler. If you look back at our license sales over the long term, we're down about 20 to 25%. And that's why there's a lot of other agencies out there that are trying to focus on how do we build new hunters? How do we build new anglers? Personally, I don't think that's the best approach because you can't scale it, right? I mean, there's no way for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission to make, 65,000 new proficient, ethical, and satisfied hunters, right? So where do we go? I think the most important thing is to focus on the natural resource and the experience, right? To manage the habitat and then let the people come to it. And we do that by focusing on the natural resources and by creating opportunity once we've done our job there. So I would say we're doing good work in the amount of educational opportunities that we offer to people to come learn how to shoot a bow, come learn how to call, come, do a mentored hunt somewhere. I think we're doing a good job for what we can control, but it's going to take a lot more than one government agency that has a heart for it.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take an entire generation of outdoorsmen.
And that's interesting. You brought up the sports deal because I'm the biggest turkey hunter out of the group. I love it. Spring comes around, I made up with it. But I didn't get into it until I hung up my baseball cleats because, in the spring, I didn't know what turkey hunting was.
Yeah.
I'd see people doing it. I knew what a turkey sounded like. But until baseball was over, I started getting out of the woods. I started to experience it. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Sure.
And now I can't stop.
I was at a Veterans Day event on Memorial Day in 21. So this is before this job. And there was a older gentleman that had coached high school football for, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, it was something like 40 years.
Long time.
And I asked him how long he'd been doing it, if he liked it, and he said that he was retiring. And I said, all right, you just had enough? And he said he couldn't keep up anymore. This is on Memorial Day, so a Monday. They were starting high school football practice the next Tuesday in May. Unbelievable. So you take that and you span it through May, June, July, August. When the kid's having the opportunity to get behind a fishing pole, So.
And you're not just losing them to school sports anymore, like you're saying. It's travel ball.
It's travel
If
too,
you have money, you're going to be on a team. It doesn't matter if you have talent or not. So, it's anybody that wants to play.
Now, the one silver lining that I'm starting to see, and we'll just have to see how this shakes out. But like my 10-year-old, she plays basketball, she plays volleyball. She's got teammates that are already starting to do this travel ball thing. All right. She doesn't really want to do that stuff. And I love her dearly. She has a hard time competing with even the travel girl folks at 10. What does she want to do? She wants to deer hunt.
Yeah.
Right. She wants to fish in the spring. She wants to join her school's youth shooting sport team where she can shoot trap. So like maybe things will get so competitive to a point that it actually starts to push kids out of it and back the other direction. But I just don't think we're there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I've got buddies who their kids grew up playing travel ball and all that. And then as soon as they're out of high school, like colleges are like, come play. And they're like, man, I'm burnt out.
Exactly.
Like, you could have got your whole school paid for, but instead you've put so much effort into it, so much energy into it that they burn out, and then they're having to pay out of pocket for college going forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember when I was in school, we got out, and on the school calendar, it was marked deer days. Like, we're going deer hunting. Like, they knew that's what it was, and they call it what it was. Yeah. And I mean, you don't see that now. Of course, I mean, you've got the schools are pushing different agendas, and we don't have to get into all that. But you know,
well,
they don't want to see that.
And towards the beginning of the show, I asked you the question whether your kids would go back, because I'm a big hunter. I take it very seriously, and sometimes as a dad, I get sucked into that a little bit too much, and I'm all about harvest, right? But for those kids, what's more important than anything is that they just have a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's my main thing with my girls. Like growing up, I didn't know I had a choice of we were going or we weren't going. It was just, we're not working, we're hunting. Right. So, and I want them, hey, if you want to go, I want you to tell me you want to go and we'll go. Even if we just go out there and sit around and eat snacks. Yeah. Which that's pretty much what we did all morning.
Yeah. I was there when
Matt
his youngest daughter killed the first deer, and I would say she's hooked. We had a great time in the blind. I mean, it was the most memorable hunt I was on probably all year.
Yeah, it was a blast. And it's a whole different dynamic to a hunt when it's your kid and you're just basically just coaching as much as possible and like, okay, it's up to you now. Yeah. Pull the trigger and
take the shot.
Pray it's a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my last question that I would have to piggyback off of what you said about the youth trending down. So I was working for another company. We were associated with an archery company, a clothing company in the outdoor world. And when COVID rolled around, we really saw an increase because people didn't have anything to do but to get outside.
Sure.
Did you see that kind of stay consistent after COVID? Like, are numbers up, or is it starting to trend back down where it was before? Just hunters, people getting out in general.
We have stayed largely level with the pandemic bump we've seen.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
And we're one of the only states that can say that.
Wow. I
think we're down maybe 1 to 3%.
That's nothing.
No, compared to other states that are actually down from their pre-pandemic level, we're really grateful for that.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, and that's true not only on the revenue side of it, but also the number of products we sell too.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So off of the last podcast, we seen you jump on Instagram Live. Was there any questions or anything that people were throwing out there that you wanted to hit?
No, I wasn't on for very long. I had an event on Thursday night with NWTF. Incredibly bright mind. He's a turkey researcher from LSU, Dr. Brett Collier. He came to Little Rock and gave a talk. So I got home from that, was getting around for the next morning and just kind of turned it on casually.
You had a
I didn't watch all of it. Yeah.
You caught enough for your 20 gauge comment.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he said, now that we're talking about it,
squeaky
Tyler.
wheel, man. Squeaky wheel.
I will say that I appreciated your perspective, Tyler, around force management.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Why y'all looking at me? I don't have anything else.
Still making sure nobody's got another question.
The only other thing that really excited me was that velvet deer season being a possibility.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Man, that fired me.
Have you had anybody say no to that?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Well, then I want to know why. What's the reason for no?
It's the same category of folks that would like to see us go from a 2 buck limit down to 1.
Yeah.
People are just worried about buck recruitment.
Okay, I don't deer hunt, so I mean, talk to me like I'm 5. I don't understand.
I mean, that early season, they're a lot more easy to pattern.
Are they easier?
I mean, it's hot, and you may catch it 100 and 115 here in Arkansas, and deer aren't going to move when it's that hot early September. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it's only a 3-day hunt, too, right? It's not a 2-week hunt or anything like that. So we have a group of commissioners right now that is really, really laser focused on the experience, on doing right by the natural resource. But if there's something that we can do to increase excitement, awareness, opportunity to try it, and if it doesn't work, then we'll pull it back the other way.
And several states around us have gone to it, so I'm sure you're able to look at that data and make an informed decision too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that one excited me. I mean, I was like, I'm really not crazy about deer hunting, but to shoot a velvet buck in Arkansas,
Yeah.
I'd probably get on board with that. Go sweat to death for 3 days.
It excited me for y'all. I mean, my buddies that do deer hunt, I was like, that would be really cool for them to get a trophy like that. I would be happy for y'all.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, you got anything else over there?
I'm good.
Barrett?
He doesn't have a mic. He's just shaking his head.
I stole Barrett's mic.
Austin, thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks
We
for having
really
me, man.
appreciate your time and insight into all this. If you're listening now, please subscribe, like, all the things. We don't know what all y'all have to do, but please do that. Matt knows all the things. But anyhow, we'll catch y'all on the next one.